Hey y'all, and welcome back to another Photoshop tutorial. My name is Jane Corley with PicVisions, Media Arts and Photography. If it's your first time here, welcome! Every Monday we go over tips, tools, and techniques in order to become a better post-production artist in Adobe Photoshop. If you have not done so already, please do make sure to like this video if you learned something new, subscribe, and ring the bell so that you do not miss new videos every Monday on how to become a better Photoshop post-production artist. So today's episode is all about smart objects. What are smart objects? How to use smart objects? Why would you use smart objects? Let's just get down into smart objects. Smart objects, according to Adobe's Photoshop user guide, smart objects are layers that contain image data from raster or vector images, such as Photoshop or Illustrator files. Smart objects preserve an image's source content with all of its original characteristics, enabling you to perform non-destructive editing to a smart object layer. So what does that mean? What that means is a smart object is an image like the one you see here, or a vector image like one you would bring in from Adobe Illustrator. And when that image is pasted into Photoshop, either an image or you can come to your Illustrator file and do Control-C for copy, and then Photoshop, Control-N for a new document, okay, and then Control-V. With a vector image, it's going to pop up this window here. You can either bring it in Smart Objects, Pixels, Paths, or Shape Layer. Just to show you why we use Smart Objects, let me import it as Pixels to show you why we don't use Pixels and we use Smart Objects. If you were to bring a vector image into Adobe Photoshop and do a transform, like let's just make it smaller, commit to the transform, and then we'll make it bigger again. Well, if you bring it in as pixels, you see how the image is now pixelated and it's not smooth anymore. You're not retaining all of the information that you brought in from Adobe Illustrator. So let's go all the way back out and do another Control-V and go to Smart Object, hit OK, transform down, and then we'll bring it back up. Hit enter, and the information was retained, no pixelization, no nothing. So that is one of the benefits of bringing a smart object from Illustrator into Photoshop, and now you can work with it on the Photoshop platform. But as I said earlier, you have to rasterize the image to be able to make any changes to the actual pixels. So how do we do that? You right click on the layer and you go to rasterize layer, like that's all. So now you can, E for erase and erase the image, B for brush, and you can draw on that image. You can use your clone stamp, and we'll make our clone stamp a little bit bigger so we can see what we're doing. Alter option to copy, and then you can make your copies at whatever opacity you would like so. And just make whatever changes you want to make and adjustments to the physical pixels. You can even do dodge and burns if just any changes to the pixels, which you wouldn't necessarily be able to do if this was still a smart object. You see my little target sign popped up? I can't make any changes to the actual pixels. So that's kind of putting it very, very bluntly about what the difference from a smart object and a rasterized layer is. So let's go back to our cake. Looks delicious. So let's go over to our birthday candles. I have one of these candles selected already. I'm going to do a Control-C and then come over to my cake layer and do a Control-V for paste. Then I'm going to right click and convert to Smart Object. With a Smart Object, I'm going to do a Control-T for transform, just to get my candle a little bit bigger so we can see with what we're working. This allows for this candle to remain non-pixelated. It's still a very nice candle to put on this cake. With smart objects, your blending modes are available, so you can perform blending modes to these layers. You can adjust your opacity on these layers. So it's just a normal layer. You can make fill adjustments to whatever you'd like. Another benefit of a smart object, another perk that a smart object has, of course, let's get our opacity all the way up, is you can apply filters to that smart object. So let's do a stylize, emboss filter, just so we can see what we're working with. You're also provided a mask So where everything is still the same. You can do B for brush and reveal portions of that mask if you want to. Just all the normal stuff. Control Z to step you all the way back. The main perk of using smart objects in the post-production world is because of linked smart objects. That is creating duplicate copies of the same object or similar objects, and then essentially running miniature action sets on all of these items within the same image. So if you're lost, let's get you unlost. I'm going to do a Control T to transform this candle back to a relatively, candle-ish size. I'm gonna make it a little bit fatter. And what we're going to do now is we are going to drag down to our new layer copies of the original candle. 4 candles will do. So come to each layer and simply do a Control T and arrange the new candles however you would like on the different areas of the cake. You can adjust these smart object layers any way you want. You can make them fatter, you can invert them, you can hold your Control Alt or Control or Command Option to change your perspective on the candles individually if you would like. So once you have all of the layer copies from the original layer moved around, selected, that looks fine, you're going to come down to the original layer 1. So not any of the copies, but the original layer 1. Select the icon swatch, double click, this image window will pop up. If you haven't selected, don't show again, and a PSB file will pop up. This is where you will edit your smart object that you want to reflect in all of the other candles as well. So let's just simply do a hue and saturation level. We'll bring our saturation all the way down and we'll make the candle blue. That sounds fine to me. Then I want to retain the candle light up top, so I'm going to make sure that I'm on my mask here, a little skinny mask. You're on black to conceal the mask because we want to conceal the saturation and hue mask, and just simply brush over the area that you don't want to include in the mask. You can give it stripes if you want to, whatever you'd like. You can do any other adjustments, any other changes to this smart object, and when you are through, simply hit File, Save. Where this file saves is very, very important. So if you go to Save As and you're not selected inside of the original file folder, so like where the cake is in my Photoshop File Explorer, you want to make sure that you save it in that same location. Hit OK. And then you can close down this window here. And when you return back to the cake image, all of the 4 candles now have that same adjustment, because anything that you do to this layer in that PSB window will reflect on all of the layer copies that you made from that smart object. So I do hope this video was helpful on some tips, tools, and techniques about how to work with smart objects in Adobe Photoshop. We went over linked smart objects today, the perks and the disadvantages or the inabilities of workflow use in Adobe Photoshop. So please do make sure to leave in the comments below any tips or tricks you have for me on how to make better videos for you guys, as well as some things that you might want to learn about in Adobe Photoshop that I have not covered in any of these videos yet. This video, I went kind of fast. If you have any questions, please refer back to my previous videos. They're super helpful about how to use Photoshop, how to manipulate the different uses, the different tools, the different techniques in Photoshop. So please take a look at those for some really great content. Look forward to seeing you guys next week. As I said before, make sure to like this video if you learned something new, subscribe, and ring the bell if you have not done so already. Looking forward to seeing you guys next week. See you later, guys.